0, 1.
Let's get started.
All right, everybody, we are back again with Sheriff Cook from Bastrop County. So the last time we visited about the Branch Davidian standoff, and we talked about, all that good stuff and the details and stuff, a lot of that stuff which is in your book. So I'd like to encourage everybody to go out, get on Amazon, click on the link in the description, get you a copy of the book, and you can get a lot more detail than we're talking about here today. So today I think we're going to jump right back into a incident that we kind of teased on the last time we were on, the Carrasco incident, as they call it, which was a prison siege or a prison riot that happened back in the early 70s down in Huntsville. So why don't you tell us kind of how that got kicked off, and where you were in your career during that time, and kind of, tell us the story, what happened there.
Well, first of all, I hadn't been in the Rangers less than a year. I'd went to Rangers in September, and this happened in July of 74. And I was at the regional office, our headquarters, and got a call to take some bulletproof vests that we had, and they were really bulletproof vests. They were ceramic. They weighed about 60 pounds.
Wow. And
I was told to, and that was left over from our SWAT team. Now, by then, we had a SWAT team, and there were so many members in each company, like 3 and 4 members, and we had a captain, 2 companies. We had 3 different teams, and we had by companies, and we were teamed up with Company B. But at any rate, I got a call from the captain to bring those to bulletproof vests to got Waco on my mind, to Huntsville. And so I headed off to Huntsville and got up there, and I was one of the first to arrive. We started assembling some Rangers. We actually assembled some people from intelligence, from DPS and so forth. And Fred Gomez Carrasco had seized the library, which was on the 3rd floor of one of the buildings just inside the walls there at Huntsville. Now, keep in mind that Huntsville Prison is within 400 or 500 yards of the university.
Okay.
Sam Houston. And so, at any rate, this is in almost downtown Huntsville, right, where this is. And so, anyway, when we arrived, we found out that what had happened was that Carrasco had taken and seized the library, which, like I say, is on the 3rd floor of this particular building. There was 100 and something people in the library when he seized it, and he had miraculously come up with a firearm. He had a .357 pistol. His counterpart, Rudy Dominguez, had also a .357, and Ignacio Cuevas had a .38. And so they all were well armed. They had a bunch of ammunition. And we found out later how they got that in. But if you'll remind me, I'll cover that.
Okay.
But at any rate, they had taken over the library. They had shot one of the guards who was going into the library to see what was going on. Shot him in the foot, I think. And then they shot another guard, but it went through his uniform and didn't hit him. And so now they got control of the library. And then on the first day, I think, maybe the second day, but the first day they released most of the hostages, but they kept a select number. They kept some that were snitches that they knew. They had one in there that they knew was a snitch, so they kept him. They're going to kill him.
Yeah.
And then they had some of the librarians, which were females. There was about 11 or 12 people that he kept behind as hostages. And one of the kind of a humorous thing, I don't know if it's humorous or not, but anyway, the one that was a snitch, it wasn't too many days into it that he knew he was going to be killed. So he run headlong into that glass door that had a couple of bullet holes in it, so it was able to break it out.
Oh,
He ran headlong into that thing and broke it out
wow.
and crawled out of that library. And then Carrasco decided that wasn't going to happen again, so he put a desk in front of the door, and then he'd put a hostage on the top of the desk in a chair.
I gotcha. Now, the hostages, were they, obviously there were some inmates, but there was also some staff members in there as well, right?
That's correct. Librarians. There was quite a few females, and there was also some males.
Wow. So it's a pretty scary time for them, I can imagine.
Well, as it went on, we first started out when we were up front with the command, and Mr. Estelle, who was the director at TDC at the time, Mr. Estelle and all of us mingled, and we stayed in the front office. And then as it got organized, we got mattresses behind the library, and we slept on the ground on those mattresses up until about the 7th day or so. And then we brought in another shift so they would relieve us. And so we've got 2 shifts going, one at night, one in daytime. And we had prepared the library with some dynamite on the back of it.
Okay.
We took, I think it was 6 pounds of TNT or plastic explosive or whatever it is. Anyway, we put some of that on 3 different windows that had been bricked up.
Wow.
Now, these are solid windows now. They're brick. So we put those 6 pounds on each one of them, and then we were going to blow it up. We got the National Guard there to help us until they realized that maybe they shouldn't be doing it. So they left. Halliburton came in and helped rig up all the dynamite, and we had a deal, and I never will forget it. You turned it, and it would explode the dynamite.
Wow.
We had ladders going on top of the laundry, and then we had a ramp that would run up to the back of the library, and there was a shelf there that we could get on. And so we had, keep in mind, ladders. Then we had to run up a ramp. This was after we blew the windows, if we did. And on 2 occasions, we hooked up. And this was after Halliburton had left. And that was scary because our Ranger Sergeant, Johnny Crumno, actually hooked the wires up 2 times to blow it.
Wow.
All he had to do is twist the handle. And it was false alarms because they said that they had killed one of the inmates, and we were going in if they killed anybody.
Wow.
And so we didn't have to do that. And then about the 4th day, it's kind of funny in a way because some of the Ranger Sergeant, for instance, and the captain were older, and they were having to go up a ladder and then run and go up a ramp. We'd probably had to carry some of them. Mm-hmm. I was in good shape, but they were not,
Right.
And so they decided to get a forklift, and they got a pallet on a forklift. And so the forklift was going to raise us up to the top of the library, or the top of the laundry.
Wow.
And that was kind of comical in a way, because I look back at the pictures and think we were going to have our own elevator up to the top, and then we were going to run off and then run up the ramp.
Wow. So, how long did this whole thing last? I mean, we talking a couple weeks here, or?
We're talking about 11 and a half days.
Wow.
It's the longest prison siege in the United States. They've had some worse ones, I think, in New Mexico, but we've never had one any longer than this. This was 11 and a half days. And we just anniversaried with it in August. August the 3rd, I think, was the anniversary when it ended. And in fact, I went to Huntsville to the prison museum, and they had a panel. And I'm the only living person that was on the interception team that I'm aware of. And the reason is because I was just 31 years old when it happened. So I was a young guy at the time.
And this was 50 years ago.
Yeah, I know it was.
Wow.
But they had the guy that got shot in the foot and got shot in the arm, or shot in the uniform. They were there on the panel.
Wow.
And there were several other people that was involved in that, and we had a panel discussion. And some of the families of the ones of 2 of the librarians that were actually killed during the time they were there.
Wow.
And but that's kind of a story in itself of how they got out of there, how they came down from the library.
So, the people that were killed, the librarians, did they get killed prior to y'all going in, or is that what caused y'all to go in?
No.
How'd y'all do that?
On 11 and a half days, Carrasco wanted to come down and get in an armored car that we had provided for him. we made him think he was going to get this armored car and escape out of the prison and take his hostages with him. And he had taken a library chalkboard, and you've probably seen it. They were on wheels and so forth. They'd roll around and people write on. Well, they had a couple of those in there, and so they took some books, law books. In fact, I've got one. I wished I'd have brought it, but I've got a law book that's got a bullet hole in it that was used on the shield.
Wow.
And he taped those law books to the shield. And they did stop the bullets. I can say that because my law book has it about an inch into it.
Wow.
And I don't know who shot that shot. It could have been me. I shot some. When that shield came down from the top, it came down to the second floor to the inmate chow hall, and we were staged in the inmate chow hall for about an hour, incidentally. And it was August weather. It was 100 degrees.
Right.
And we were sweating and trying to maintain our composure. And when this shield came down, we had some of the TDC people on a fire hose out some of the doors, and they opened the doors up and shot that water on that shield. We thought it would knock the shield down, but they had people handcuffed to the outside of the shield. When they fell down, when we hit the water with it, that just anchored that shield to the ground. And so after we exchanged shots back and forth some, the Captain Rogers went out first, Captain Burke second. We had an FBI agent there that went out. He was not supposed to be on the team, but he was. Mm-hmm. And he went out, and he literally got shot right beside me. I was about the fourth one out.
Wow.
And he got shot and knocked back through the door. And literally, and now I'm telling you, he literally got propelled backwards.
Wow.
And remember, these were ceramic vests, and they had no give to them. You know, our vests that we have now, you'd have a little give, and you get bruised probably if you got shot. This one here was solid. When he got hit with that bullet, it just knocked him back inside the inmate chow hall, and he hit at the serving line and just fell down. And I asked him, "You okay?" And he said, "Yeah." So I decided, well, what am I doing standing here in this door? I'm not doing no good. So I went back in. The two captains by then and Winston Pageant, one of the intelligence people that was on there, was down beside the railing there. They sought cover. Why they did that, it didn't even make sense. But, you know, when you got a situation like this, you don't always think straight. You know, you just do what you do. So three of them was huddled up there. And so I kneeled down and started talking to them. And the captains were wore out. I don't mind telling you, they were older. And so Winston came back, he crawled back in, and we pulled the other two captains back in the door. So now the water by then had broke, and the water hose was flopping around. We got the power cut off. Now 200 pounds of water doing this right here when that hose is come apart.
Right.
And so then we decided, what are we going to do now? You know, I mean, it's still an active deal. You know, we got the hostages out there. We got the gunman out there. And so we noticed, then we looked on the floor, I did, and the floor's this full of water from that water hose. We got a TV monitor that had fell into that. And one of the bravest things I saw there was that Charlie Whitcomb from intelligence grabbed a towel up and went over and unplugged that. And can you imagine standing in a pool of water, unplugging that monitor that's in the water?
Yeah.
I'm thinking we're all going to be electrocuted at any moment.
Wow.
But at any rate, then one of the one of the correctional guards there brought in a ladder, and we used that ladder through the window. And we took the fire hose and put it on the ladder and turned the fire hose on. I'd never been on a 200-pound deal. When I cranked that thing open, it got away from me.
Yeah.
And I had to open it real slowly. We sprayed that and didn't do anything, but we sprayed the back of it. It had a Mexican flag and a bomb on the back of it.
Wow.
And we sprayed that and washed it all off. Then we took that ladder and started beating the back of it. And we were able to beat that shield until it came off of all the bodies. By now, the ones that were handcuffed to the shield, one of the prison guards was able to use the railing as cover, walked out there and cut those people off because they were on a rope. He cut them loose, and all the ones on the outside of the shield had escaped by now.
Wow.
And so then we knocked the shield down, Once the shield was down, I ran out the door, and so did Winston Paget. I went on the top rail and didn't know really what I was doing. I just went on the top rail, and he said, "Which one's Carrasco?" And I said, "That's him." And I pointed to Dominguez.
Oh,
He looked like Carrasco
right.
to me, but Carrasco had his head blown off at that time.
Oh,
He had shot himself.
oh, wow.
And Cuevas is on the other end, still had a helmet on that we made for him. We had made a makeshift helmet out of metal that they wanted, had a little slit in it. And anyway, and that was good because we had taken those helmets, and we knew if we shot into the side of him that we could go ahead and shoot through it because we had it tempered.
Oh,
You can
okay.
take metal and temper it, and then it gets it real fragile. So we could shoot through the side, but you couldn't shoot through the front. And
Wow.
Carrasco had tested the front at one time, and the bullet just went off. But if he'd have shot it here, it had probably gone through.
Wow.
And so anyway, so Dominguez is there. Winston Paget said, "Which one is he?" I said, "That's Carrasco." Winston reached down with his gun and shot him in the side of the head, and then reached over the rail and shot him right between the eyes. And
Wow.
that ended Dominguez's life. And of course, Carrasco had already taken his life. And then Cuevas, we pulled him out and got Father O'Brien out. And sadly, 2 of the hostages were killed by the gunman. There's no question with what it was because they were shot in the back.
Right.
Our bullets would have never got that far because they were all clustered together.
Right.
And so we knew that the gunman had shot one, Miss Stanley and Miss Posada, and one of them been shot 4 times and one of them been shot once.
Wow. It's quite the firefight there.
Well, it was young in my career. You don't have these kind of milestones. I mean, we watch television all the time, but I can tell you that you don't get involved in situations like this very often.
Right.
And it stayed with me all my whole life. And, it is one of the milestones in my career. And
what type of guns did you guys have? Were y'all in there with pistols? Did y'all have rifles, shotguns? What were y'all going up against them with?
Well, we had, I had an M1 carbine.
Okay.
And I had, they gave us these military helmets that we were going to be able to wear. I had a 357 issue gun, and I had a 9mm Model 39. The 39 is the one I shot.
Okay.
I never shot the other gun.
I got you. So you're in there with a revolver, a semi-automatic, and a rifle.
We carried 2 pistols at that time.
Oh, y'all did.
Well, I did. For that incident, I did.
Okay.
I couldn't be Roy Rogers at any other
Right.
time, but that time I felt like I needed it.
Right. Okay. So when that was all said and done, were there any officers that were killed, or they were just shot, but they were okay?
We had no officer shot, or even except for the FBI agent.
Okay.
That got shot, but he was not, injured.
I got you. And then the 2 people that were killed, the 2 librarians, and any inmates get killed other than the gunman?
No, not they got released. Now Father O'Brien was shot, but we think it was a pass-through bullet. But he was shot in. And kind of a humorous part of that is that Father O'Brien, when he'd give speeches, and I heard him give a few of them, he said he qualified to be a bishop because he had lead in his ass.
Nice.
And so
That's funny.
The bullet was never taken out of him. He was
Okay.
shot, and so that's where the bullet came from.
I got you. So, did y'all ever get to use the dynamite?
Never did.
Oh man.
And I don't even remember how they got it off the wall or who took it off the wall, but I got pictures of it on that wall.
That's awesome. Well, that's an interesting account that, it's crazy. So what was their goal? Was their goal to escape? Is that was their, that's what their thing was?
We don't know where they were going to go, but when I went through the library it was 2 days later, they gave us a tour of the library. I found where Carrasco was sitting. He sat down at the far end and he had a book open for Pancho Villa. And next to that book was a hand-drawn map to show that they were going to drive out the back gate. And I probably wasn't supposed to, but I took that map. I still got that map today.
Wow.
that shows where he was going to escape to. So he really thought he might get out of there.
Wow.
And but we gave him an armored car.
Yeah.
And he was going to take the hostage. They loaded water in it. They used an inmate to go down and load water in it, and told the inmate, if you don't come back, we're going to kill everybody else. And so the inmate came back. But
wow, that's crazy. That's awesome. Well, I'm glad you're able to share that with us. And again, if anybody wants some more details, go by the book.
Right. And I would tell you that Cuevas was later convicted. It took 3 trials, but he finally got the death penalty. He was buried in the cemetery there at Huntsville, and later his family come and interred him and took him to Mexico.
Wow.
So he's buried in Mexico now.
Wow. Okay. Well, again, it's always exciting to hear these stories, and I appreciate you coming on. Is there anything else that you want to talk about before we hop off here?
No, I think you got all the talking out of me that you're going to get right now.
All righty. Well, I appreciate it. And everybody, appreciate you tuning in. And we will see y'all down the road on Texas Narcos. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Texas Narcos Podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Remember to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, share our podcast with your friends and family. You can find Texas Narcos Podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. Your continued support helps us to bring you stories like the one you just heard. Thank you, God bless, and we'll see you down the road on Texas Narcos.